Okay, here's a quick little video on just Act One of Macbeth. If you have yet to actually read the the act, then I would press pause on this video and try to finish it, and then return turn to what I have to say here. Otherwise, it really won't make a whole lot of sense. For those who have read it, and if you are all up to date, you'll have noticed a couple of key things. Is one that um, the play is relatively short, just in the thickness of the actual play. If you put that up towards like Hamlet or Lear, you'll notice that it'd be much larger. So this is a very short tragedy. And in saying that, you'll also notice while you're reading it that the whole idea of time is actually quite obscured too. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, we know it's a tragedy, and in tragedies that we have an upside down world. We have a world in which chaos rules. We have a world in which there's an immense amount of disorder. And I think the idea that time being obscured and being unclear in terms of experiencing time by the characters, they are continuously making reference about time being out of order. And as an audience or a reader, we are unsure about exactly how what the actual timeline of the story is, if it's going over a day, if it's going over a longer period of time. There are some hints there, but at the same time, the experience of time is one that's obscured. And as I said was saying, this is to tie into that larger idea of it being a tragedy, of being in a world of chaos and disorder ruling, and of a time where things are out of order and dysfunctional, and that adds to that. So if you were reading this and trying to figure out just a linear sense of time and had difficulty, well, you're not alone. A lot of people have made that comment as well. In your in your play, in your copy of the play, at the very front, you'll see what are called commentaries, and these are just summaries of the scene. These are very important to actually go through as well. They give you not only a plot summary, but it's also pretty good to just simply um, get an idea of what the play is about, but it also gives you a little bit hints along the way too of what to pay attention for, character development, maybe a repeated idea, and so forth. All right. So let's jump ahead here, and we'll get going into the um, the actual play and looking at the larger ideas and of Act One here. So let me just share my screen with you, and we can just jump right in here. Okay, so here we go. One of the big things that you would have noticed in at the beginning of the play, especially in the first scene, is a sense of inversion, things being inverted, or this, or what else is also called this sense of duality here. And what I mean by that is things are neither good or bad, right or wrong. They just are. And again, this further reflects the type of world that we're entering, where you have one where things aren't clear. Morality maybe is not even clear, of doing right or doing bad, doing good or doing evil. Okay, so where we see this especially is in Act One, Scene One, lines 1 to 13, the first scene of the play. And you see this opening up, the first two lines, when shall we meet again, in thunder, lightning, or in rain. So as an audience member, we're realizing very quickly that we're entering a world of chaos. The weather reflects this. And then when the hurly-burly's done, when the battle's lost and won. Well, it's interesting. How can a battle be both lost and won? They must be talking about something on a larger, significant level than simply maybe just a war, or maybe not. But as an audience member, we're back into the sense of inversion. Things are inverted here, right? That will be ere the set of sun, or the place upon the heath there to meet with Macbeth. And at this point, we have the introduction of the title character. We know that they're associated with him, these three witches, somehow. I come, grey Malkin, paddock calls anon. Fair is foul, and foul is fair. Hover through the fog and filthy air. Probably some of the most famous lines that you will find in all of Shakespeare's plays is this idea of fair is foul and foul is fair. Again, you have inversion. You have this sense of chaos, of what is good is bad and what is bad is good. The audience is left wondering simply here, what is going on here? What type of world are we in? And again, here I've provided you with 5 opening scenes of how this has been filmed, and I would at the very least take a second and watch these, and you'll see some very interesting choices here, whether it be a more traditional setting to one more that's in a war type setting and environment. They're very interesting. Um, we see this again, this sense of inversion or this sense of duality um in scene 3, act 1 and scene 3, where we have the witches just before Macbeth confronts them and meets them. We have these sense of what these witches have done to return what they perceive as an affront. So what they will go through and what they do, and further characterizing the type of creatures or individuals these are, and again further emphasizing that we're in a world of chaos. And you'll find this in at the beginning, the first 92 lines of scene 3 of act 1. And where we see this inversion again is just before Macbeth and Banquo stumble um onto the witches. Macbeth makes a remark here, and it's interesting when he says, "So fair, foul and fair a day I have not seen," drawing that parallel with the witches. So he's even noticing something is out of order here, and this is quite, I would say, a moment of not just simply foreshadowing, but tying everything together with respect to this disorder. We have a little bit later here, when the witches again address him, and then they get into the certain prophecies, which we will come back to. Again, I suggest you just watch the quick little clips that I have put in here, and that will help you deepen your understanding of exactly what's going on. Big question here I have at this time is, how does the language or equivocation serve as a type of foreshadowing of things to come? So we talked on one, okay, being this idea of fair is foul and foul is fair as a bit of a foreshadowing element. What I would like you to think, though, too, is how else has um, the type of language, the type of words that are being used, but the speeches of and from the witches, how does that serve to establish certain things to come? We know it's a tragedy. What are other clues that perhaps all of this is going to end in tragedy? So that's a question I want you to mull over, because in that answer you're looking at characterization, larger ideas, some perhaps symbols, but themes, and imagery, so forth. Very important things. Um, Speaking of imagery here too, is let's take a look at some of the descriptive imagery that's used in this particular scene. The one is the witch's spells are full of rich imagery from the natural world. And before I read the rest of that question, this play has a whole lot of natural imagery, imagery from about animals, imagery about weather, imagery about I would say um, lightning and darkness and stuff. Anything that you would see in nature. Um, that's one of the big things I think you should pull away and maybe even go back and review of Act One is this natural imagery. So the question here: what effect does this focus on nature have on the mood of the play? We know that the play opens up. If we go back, right? If we go back to the very beginning, you know, thunder, lightning, enter 3 witches, when shall we meet again? And thunder, lightning, and rain. That has a clear connection to the witches. And again, in scene 3, the witches appear again in thunder. Okay, and then I want you to think about what other effect does this have on on the focus of nature. So the idea of these witches on the overall mood of the play. Okay, and the mood again is your attitude, your feeling towards what you are experiencing. Okay. Um, One big other idea that I think in your review of Act One you should look at is this idea of conflict. Macbeth is a conflicted man. He is a man of I would say incredible personal torment, and you get to see this unfold and definitely start to unfold in Act One and move very much into Act Two. Um, Look at his first soliloquy, the one that's called "Why Do I Yield to That Suggestion?" And here again, you have a couple of key ideas. So here's Macbeth speaking aside. Two truths are told as happy prologues to the swelling act of the imperial theme. I thank you, gentlemen. And then aside, he is saying, cannot be ill, cannot be good. If ill, why hath it given me earnest of success, commencing in a truth? I am Thane of Cawdor. If good, why do I yield to that suggestion, whose horrid image doth unfix my hair and make my seated heart knock at my ribs? Against the use of nature, present fears are less than horrible imaginings. My thought, whose murder yet is but fantastical, shakes so my single state of man that function is smothered in surmise and nothing is but what is not. Here you have, and then Banquo's comment here is, look how our partners wrap deep in thought, and then again, Macbeth finishes, if chance will have me king, why chance may crown me without my stir. Here you have a man of like, what? This cannot be bad, but it cannot be good. You have the sense of inversion already penetrating his person from the witches, right? Seemingly, the witches, what the witches have presented to him has greatly infected him, and that's another image I want you to be mindful of, is this imagery of disease and of sickness as well. So not just about nature, but there's of disease and illness. And then the next line, commencing in a truth, I am Thane of Cawdor. If good, why do I yield to that suggestion? Whose horrid image doth unfix my hair? He's upset by what he hears. Okay. And then down here, my thought, whose murder yet is but fantastical, shakes so my single state of man, that function is smothered in surmise and nothing is but what it is not. He has a hard sense time here and a bit of a challenge of understanding this sense of reality and of fantasy perhaps. And I think you really need to maybe review and work through this first soliloquy as you are looking at this idea of Macbeth as a conflicted man, as one who has already an inner turmoil, and this turmoil that does have this sense of illness and sickness attached to it. Not quite yet, but perhaps later on in terms of his actions and behaviors. And again, I would quick review the clip as well, because seeing it is performed is a little bit different than reading it. Again, what ideas are being presented in this soliloquy from 1.3, 130 to 142. And I want, after you get a sense of what ideas are being there, kind of like what we just covered, I want you to compare it to the second soliloquy. And we see the second soliloquy in 1.7. So at the end of Act 1, the first 28 lines, and that one is the he's here in double trust soliloquy. And in this, we before any killing or thoughts of killing Duncan, we have a lot of indirect language surrounding it. He talks about it in euphemistic language. He talks about it indirectly, in a sense. So this is an interesting observation. So here we have just the soliloquy just before Lady Macbeth comes in. If it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well. If it were done quickly, if the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his surcease success, but this blow might be the be-all and the end-all here. But here, upon the bank and shoal of time, will jump the life to come. But if these cases, we still have judgment here, that we but teach bloody instructions, which, being taught, return to plague the inventor. This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poison chalice to our own lips. He's here in double trust. First, as I am his kinsman and his subject, strong with both against the deed, then as his host, who should against his murder shut the door, not bear the knife myself. Besides this, Duncan hath borne his faculty so meek, hath been so clear in his great offense, that his virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued against the deep damnation of his taking off, and pity, like a naked newborn babe, striding the blast of heaven's cherubim, horsed upon the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye. That tears shall drown the wind. I have no spur to prick the sides of intent, but only vaulting ambition. This is a key line here, folks, which o'erleaps itself and falls on the other. This is a man that and what I want you to look at, I want you to really compare that soliloquy with the first soliloquy that we have here. And I want you to see how have things developed and how have things changed, if they have at all. But I think what you see here is, one is he characterizes Duncan as a good man. He characterizes Duncan very similar to how in 1.2, the beginning of 1.2, the bloody captain characterizes Macbeth when he gives his report from the battlefield. Very much the same type of language: brave, honorable, virtuous, right? So there's that parallel in here, and he recognizes, in a sense, himself in Duncan. But he also recognizes himself with this lovely idea of vaulting ambition, and that's a key subject that I would very much be aware of as you move through the text. And again, watch the clip. You have a wonderful example of it being performed, and that will really portray a conflicted Macbeth here. So a couple questions here as we move on is, why do you think Macbeth avoids using the words murder, kill, etc.? Because he doesn't. It's a lot of euphemistic languages, right? And the second one, why does this tell? What does this tell you about Macbeth's state of mind at the stage of the play? And in answering that question, I really would like you to compare the first two. Compare this soliloquy to the first one as well. And lastly, the question I want you to ponder is, how and what way does Macbeth understand himself? And specifically in terms of morality and being a moral person. There is a conflict here. How does he understand himself morally? What's his sense of duty? What's his sense of honor? Okay. Those are three very important questions in trying to get an understanding of Macbeth and his character. We have this power of persuasion, and looking at this, we're going to turn to Lady Macbeth. Lady Macbeth is always examined very intently in terms of her characterization and actions and influence over Macbeth. And then here you have two examples from scene 5 of Act 1, the famous "Come you spirits, unsex me" here speech, where you have really the pushing, and some would argue very much. And I will leave that up to you to decide Lady Macbeth's role in all of this. Okay. But what I really want you to draw attention to here, and I want you to read Act 1, Scene 7, lines 34 to 95 carefully. And I want you to look at how she incites, how she motivates, how she focuses or refocuses Macbeth. Because if you look at it, Macbeth in his first two soliloquies, he's very undecided. Here you have Lady Macbeth kind of going at things a little differently here. She seems quite focused. She's a bit of a contrast to him. And what I would characterize you here is looking at sorry, if you look at not only this, the "screw your courage to the sticking place" line, but just what she says here is this here, these two, there's these two lines in here: "Prithee peace, I dare do all that may become a man who dares do more is none." There's some assertion here that Macbeth is not going to really have any more discussion of this plot, in a sense. And then look how Lady Macbeth responds. Firstly, okay, she responds, "What beast was then that made you break this enterprise to me? When you durst do it, then you were a man, and to be more than what you were, you would. be so much more than the man, nor time nor place did then adhere in, yet you would make both they have made themselves, and that their fitness now does unmake you. I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis the love, the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from its boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I sworn as you have done to this. That is quite the powerful image of what she would go to do to fulfill a promise. And it's also quite interesting. Many scholars assert that this is an indication that perhaps they have lost a child, and that this is in a sense tragedy of being and of having no heir. And we can talk about a little bit later on. And even in some theatrical, the most recent in 2015 theatrical um, um, productions, make that a little bit, even that assertion a little bit even more concrete. Then Macbeth seems to, here's a change. Macbeth seems to like, but what if we should fail? Here he seems to be, you know, pretty asserted that, I'm kind of done with this. And then, okay, but what if we fail? We fail, but screw your courage to the sticking place and will not fail. She's challenging him on his manhood. She's challenging him on him being a man. And he, in a sense, um, bends to this challenge and listens. This is the idea of the persuasion or insight. So Macbeth tells Lady Macbeth, "We will proceed no further in this business." So line 34, he is set like right here. He tells her, "Prithee, peace. I do not dare become a man who dares to do more is none." Okay, so he says, I don't want to be that type of a man. And then she challenges him on his manhood all the way through here. But look at here, we will proceed no further in this business. He hath honored me of late, and I have brought golden options, so opinions from all sorts of people. He's done. He's not going to do this. And then she turns him in a sense here, or does he turn himself? Is there something already in him that wants to do this? This is like, these are questions you need to wrap your head around. So how does Lady Macbeth convince him to kill Duncan? We kind of went through that a little bit, talked a little bit more, but in going back, and I would like you to review this especially. Obviously watch the video, but review this especially in terms of how that goes about. Okay. The second thing in looking at characterization is, how is Macbeth being characterized in Act One? Is this consistent throughout the scene, or does it change? I think we've noticed that some things change here. What is changing in particular? Be specific. Okay. Maybe look at morality in some level. May look at honor or duty or something of that, but be specific and get evidence. Second is, how is Lady Macbeth being characterized? Is this significant with respect to Macbeth's overall characterization? So once you figure out Macbeth's characterization, figure out how she's being characterized. And does that impact or have a larger overall effect to Macbeth and his particular character? Lastly, here, just to wrap up, I would like you to look at some of these key subjects and ideas that emerge from Act One, and where do we see them? And I think looking at some big focus areas, some of those key subjects are power, ambition, identity, and fate and destiny. These are things Macbeth pulls on as well. This idea of fate and of chance and of making your own fate. Ambition, vaulting ambition, we talked about before. Identity, Macbeth's kind of torn on who he is, right? And obviously the idea of power. In terms of imagery, again, what I would like you to look at is there's a lot of references to clothing in this. There's a lot of references to blood. There's a lot of references to nature with respect to imagery. These are things that you have to be mindful of. Symbols as well. What are some objects that are representing some more abstract ideas and motifs? Clothing is a motif. These are motif is an idea, a recurring image or symbol that works to develop a theme. Okay, lots to think about here, folks. So as you are working through and preparing your kind of understanding of Act. Let me just shut this down. Of Act One, I really would like you to go back and review with this lesson all the things that we've kind of touched on. Look at imagery, look at figurative language, look at key subjects, and where do you see them? More importantly, look at Macbeth as a character. Are you repulsed by him? Are you compelled to him? Is there something in him that you identify with? Is it, or is he completely uh, objectionable? What about Lady Macbeth? What about these witches? All of these things start with your observations, and then together we are going to move towards those conclusions. Okay, hopefully that helps. Okay, go back through, make sure you're taking notes along the way in your reading of Act One, and hopefully you're coming to a better understanding of how Shakespeare's starting to craft some larger ideas.